Welcome to CPF Fire Wire, a podcast from California professional firefighters where we discuss a wide range of issues affecting firefighters, our unions, our families, and the communities we serve.
Hey everybody, welcome to the CPF Fire Wire. We're recording this in June of 2024, and we're just 5 months away from the presidential election. But it's the local things like mayor, city council, fire board directors, local revenue initiatives, the things that have the biggest impact on our lives as firefighters, our wages, benefits, workplace protections. They all depend on these local positions, and we have to be engaged in order to get the best results for our members. And that's why today I wanted to have a conversation on the importance of why we need to get involved in local issues. As the saying goes, if you're not sitting at the table, you're on the menu. And today we're fortunate to have several guests here, and here to help me out, I'm incredibly fortunate to have some of my brothers within the labor movement across California. We have Ross Pounds, the president of the Monterey Firefighters Local 3707. Ross, thank you for being here today. And we also are joined by Drew Smith from Chula Vista Firefighters Local 2180. And finally, our very own Joe Armenta. Joe is our deputy political director here at CPF. And I'm going to start by just a couple of short introductions. And Ross, start with you. Just a few things for the listeners. Tell us about yourself.
My name is Ross Pounds. I was elected as the president of Monterey Local 3707 about a year and a half ago. Previously, for the 5 years before that, I served as secretary and vice president on our local board. I've been with Monterey for going on 8 years. And I have some firefighting experience in New Zealand as well. Currently live in Capitola with my wife and family, and really enjoy just being able to represent my brothers and sisters, interact with the CPF and the IFF, and it's a privilege to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Love having you. You know what? I'm just going to start with a question right off the bat. For several years now, the Monterey firefighters in the city have been servicing the airport in Monterey. And then last year, it came to the CPF that the Monterey Peninsula Airport District was looking at other options to privatize services at the airport. Can you give us some background on that issue and maybe some of the things that the Monterey firefighters did to really back off that effort at privatization?
Like you said, the effort to privatize the airport kind of came at us quite quickly. Previous to that, the airport, which is a special district as the Monterey Peninsula Regional Airport District, they had their own fire department. So over 10 years ago, the Monterey Fire Department merged with the airport over a period of years where they merged also with the cities of Carmel and Pacific Grove, and they became our members. And have been our members since that merger. And so then about a year and a half ago, right after being elected as president of Local 3707, my chief came and visited me and said that there was on the table was privatizing. And so essentially that meant us losing 12 positions out at the airport, because we have a fire station there at the airport that not only served the airport, but also served the corridor of Highway 68 nearby. Which is a very important, valuable real estate area. There's some housing developments there, and it's also in the process of being developed. So immediately, to save those jobs, we contacted our local leaders around us. We also contacted the CPF. At the time, District Vice President Jair Juarez was really helpful with us. We also contacted the IFF and 10th District Vice President Steve Gilman. And they helped us build a strategy to try and prevent the contract from going private. And we've been kind of quiet on the political front. And then as soon as that happened, those political connections became paramount to us, especially the local political connections. So we were thrust into having to develop and really talk to our local counselors. We talked to county supervisors and really got support for maintaining that contract and maintaining unionized labor at the airport and not losing positions within our fire department.
I do want to come back to that, because to me it was pretty interesting that the city has a lot of influence over the airport, but they don't control it because it's a special district. And as we kind of get into this, I definitely want to come back and talk a little bit more about that because it adds another dimension. Also with us, we have Drew Smith from the Chula Vista Firefighters, Local 2180. Chula Vista has been really proactive over the last several years and have been involved in their council elections, the mayor, the city attorney. Drew, the Chula Vista Firefighters have had a major impact within the city of Chula Vista. Tell me a little bit about yourself and some of the work that you've started to do and some of the impacts that you're seeing.
Thank you, President Rice. So a little bit about myself. I've been a CPF firefighter now coming up on 15 years. The last 8 years I've been with the city of Chula Vista, and I've been with what I like to think is very proactive agencies when it comes to, or locals when it comes to their union activity. I didn't really know how to get started in stepping up to the board, so I just assisted a lot with other projects. And then finally, about 2.5 years ago, I said, it's my time. I was born and raised in Chula Vista. I care about the community. I care about our workforce. I want to be that person to make that change. So I ran for an e-board seat, which is the PAC chair, and I won it. Long story short, the way we run our elections, you get right into it. Your feet are on the fire. That first year was just managing, just getting to know everything. And then this upcoming cycle, I really got to see where we can improve. So we've made a couple of adjustments. We're going to see how they go. And hopefully everything goes like it should, goes as planned.
Awesome. We'll get back into that too, because there's a couple of those adjustments that I think are super interesting. Also with us today, I have Joe Armenta, and Joe is our deputy political director for right now our local politics. And Joe, in the short time that he's been with us, has been involved in a ton of local races, whether initiatives or candidates. And so as we get into this, I just want to have a conversation on some of the things that that I've seen when I was a local president, that you guys are seeing today. Joe, the things that you're experiencing, and hopefully just be able to provide, some tidbits or nuggets to members out there, executive boards, and just different locals that are getting into the political process locally. Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
Well, thank you for having me, Brian.
Absolutely.
My name is Joe. I've been at the CPF here since October and working with a lot of locals across the state. Before this, I was a campaign manager for several statewide campaigns in California. I've also just been a certified political hack, really, but someone who's really just been involved in the industry at the state, at the local, and at the federal level on various causes, mostly involving labor issues. One of the things I've been proud of working here in my short time has been working on a lot of revenue campaigns across the state. Most recently, we actually worked with Calaveras County. This was a very small rural county, kind of up in the foothills in California. And they were launching a ballot initiative that they tried several times. And each time they tried it, they fell just short. And really what they're trying to do is fund fire protection services in their county. So we worked with them, we professionalized their operation, and with the work of their members on the ground, with the work of community members, they were actually able to pass that initiative this time around and bring in, I believe it was up to $5 or $6 million into the county every year. That's really going to go a long way into modernizing their fire department into something that benefits their members and benefits firefighters in their community. So I've been working on those types of issues. I've also been working on candidate campaigns. I've been working with you all in Monterey to help think through the process of how you're going to engage on some of the issues that are important to you, and then helping uplift programs that are already existing in Chula Vista, but really just be a partner to you all too in making your voice heard in your community.
Joe, because a lot of times you'll get in on some of these on the ground floor, and as a political director, what are the kind of 1 and 2, maybe 3 most important things that you want to see coming in, or you want to make sure start to happen right away?
Yeah, there's a few basic questions that we ask every time. One, a lot of our locals are at various states. Some are just beginning in the political process. Some have a established political program. You have large locals like Los Angeles. that have a consultant and they kind of are self-sufficient. So really a big chunk of the initial conversation is just, where are you at? Is this your first time doing this? Do you have a PAC set up? What are the basic kind of infrastructure that you currently have that exists? And how can I help you out from there? So if you're just brand new to this process, there's some locals that don't even have PACs set up. We help you out with getting the PACs established. But even some of them, they may have a PAC set up, but they've never really used it or they've never really drawn from it. And so we just ask them, okay, what are your goals? What are you trying to do here? What is your budget? And basically work with you on where you're at. So those are some of the things that we like to know at the beginning. Then I can go in, I can look at some of the data, I can look at some of the history that you all have out there and just be a strategic partner to you all on the ground.
And like we've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you joined the fire service over the last 10 years, you might think that some of the benefits that you have on the job, like overtime, up-to-date personal protective equipment, healthcare, retirement, that they're just naturally a part of the job. And as you guys, as local leaders, can you speak to that the things that you might think because you joined the fire service just happens naturally out of the city or the district's goodness? How do those things really work, Ross? We were talking about that a little bit earlier. New leadership and some of the things that are happening. Tell me about that.
One of the things, getting involved in the executive board and being more involved in my own union really opened my eyes up to not only the impact and the involvement that our local has at our local level with our local administration, but what the CPF does for us with legislation and larger causes with campaigns. And Joe had that conversation with our new PAC director. We've had money and now we're actually utilizing it. As well as the IFF, we've utilized their resources. We've had a lot happen as a small local in the last year and a half. But each one of those, as GST Frank Lehman would explain, has different lanes. And so for our new members to understand that just, affecting something as simple as change in administration. We did a vote of no confidence last year because we'd had questionable administration over a number of years that was deteriorating where we were at with our fleet, with our equipment. And even just the provision of those things, changing
kind of the overall health and safety of Monterey firefighters was being neglected.
Yes.
And I'll say, because I talked to you about this, and there's a super bold move. And there's a lot that went into that vote of no confidence, including having the political will. It's more than, there's a lot more there than what you just said. And you guys set up a lot. Go into that just a little bit.
So it started with the airport. That's where those conversations, those relationships with our local council and our elected leaders started. And at that time, our efforts were in collaboration with administration. As we led into the vote of no confidence, that foundational relationship with our local council was just so integral to that process. It was everything. But what was more important, and this is some advice that I would give to any local leader, and we've already had other locals that have reached out to us and said, hey, you guys did this. We're considering it. What can you tell us? Establishing those relationships, even for us it was out of necessity, but establishing those relationships and being transparent was the biggest thing for us. We dictated and told, we signaled every move we were going to make, not only with our local council, but also our local leaders, our administration, as well as our local city management. And we told them every step of the way what we were doing. So when we actually made those moves, it wasn't out of the blue. We had exhausted all, effort, so to speak, as far as trying to affect change with the structure that we had and the management that we had. And we weren't getting anywhere. Our membership wanted some action. So we tried to do that. And transparency, we felt, was essential for professionalism. But just starting those relationships, sitting down, having those conversations, I think was one of the most important aspects of getting success in that process.
Ross, and for Monterey firefighters, for everybody listening, to do a vote of no confidence, that's an extreme. And it takes a lot of work. And you know this, had you not had your support on the council, it would have been a futile effort, but it was not. It was successful. And I remember I was nervous for you. I think we were all nervous for you guys. But like you said, you did everything that was necessary to do to be successful, and you affected change. Drew, in Chula Vista, I've talked to you about some of the change, and I've watched some of the change that the Chula Vista firefighters have been able to enact. Everybody's political situation is a little different, but I think this statement goes all through California. If you do not have a seat at the table, and I mean close to the head of the table, you're going to be the discussion, or you're going to be the menu. And how important, and just I think of all the things in Chula Vista, but one that really I thought was really politically astute, city attorney's election. Let's talk about that a little bit and some of your insights in that.
As a local, we're kind of tossing this one up in the air if we're going to endorse for the city attorney race. I'm not necessarily sure if we've ever endorsed for this race before, but we got to meet Marco Verdugo, and he just was someone that we instantly connected with. He's very personable. He really understood our job, and he really understood our mission going forward and how to protect our citizens and our personnel. We had some great conversations with him, and we decided that he was a right fit for us.
So as he is a candidate, what was the political landscape for his candidacy versus what was developing with other candidates in the city and other backers?
So Marco was the underdog. We were the only work group in the city that actually endorsed him. Everybody else went with another candidate. Everybody was looking at us like, what are you guys doing? But we support those who support us at the end of the day.
Did you guys get pressure from council, from civic leader? What kind of pressure did you receive for your endorsement?
Yeah, so everybody endorsed our other candidate. Ex-mayors, our retired fire chief endorsed him. Ex-police chiefs. He was very well connected with the city because he was already the city attorney about a decade prior. So we were really going against the grain with this one. And we knew that, where people are going to talk about it, and we still went with it. And I can't say that enough. If at the end of the day, you want to endorse those that support you and support your mission. And he ultimately was the guy that we chose because of that. If they're not with you, or if they can't stand with you and they're not agreeing with what you're here for, then there's no reason to endorse that person, And I think that's the biggest thing that we're trying to get through is at the end of the day that we support those that support us. And if we lose, that's also okay. So as long as that it's the right way and we do it for the right reasons, we're okay with that.
It's interesting here because we're talking about the end result is the same, to see success and to see change, but two very different fields that, to achieve that. One was really survival necessity in Monterey and a leadership change. I think Chula Vista saw something that others didn't and took a chance. Joe, as you guide a lot of us in local politics, and some of these battles are really hard fought, and we win, we lose, and then other ones we use our political experience and acumen, the things that we've come to learn. What do you see across our locals when we're in the middle of a battle, and the things that you as a political director would say, pay attention to this, watch for that, advice that you give to us, and it could be a very broad range.
For a lot of the people that call me, it's either, hey, this just happened at our city council, what should we do and how do we deal with this? Or it's, hey, our city council is not great right now. They're not making good decisions that benefit our members, and we want change. And so how do we go about making change? And then that's when we get into kind of the technical parts of it, of setting up your PAC and let's figure out the budgeting. But really, I think that's where the conversation kind of starts is, are these people really making the best decisions that impact your members? And if they're not, then what do we do about that? How can we help you all reach that point or make change, or either, and that could just be convincing the city council too. doing things that change the mind of some of the city council members. But that could also be trying to changes in leadership. And I think so much of that comes from the endorsement process as well, too, and how you set up your endorsements. And then once they get your endorsements, okay, how do we work to get this person elected?
I think one of the things about PAC is that you don't get instantaneous results. Nowadays, we're in this mindset of instant, add to cart, checkout. It's more of a long game. It's more of a chess game than it is checkers. And so I think if you set your expectations and you understand those expectations, you're going to be much more successful. Change doesn't happen overnight. I've been fortunate that the people before me, the PAC chairs, our local e-board, our membership has really built our brand, right? So we do all kinds of community events throughout the city, all times of year, from an Easter egg hunt to pancake breakfast. We have a barbecue trailer that is vinyl wrapped to look like a fire engine. We just built a mini tiller. So we've been building our brand for decades, and every local has, but we're trying to elevate our brand to now a premium brand, right? So that's my focus right now is I'm trying to grow value in our local and what our message is, and in turn provide a better service to our community and better pay and benefits for our workforce. As I stepped into this arena, like I said, the first year was just basically learning the seat, right? Now I can look back at that and I can see, hey, what worked, what didn't work, what can we improve on? And the politics behind it is everything. Like President Rice, you're saying, workplace protections, pay and benefits, that doesn't come naturally. Like, you have to fight for that. You have to encourage people.
Let's kick off right there, because Drew, you just said this, and Ross, I want to hear your thoughts too. How important and what are the strategies you guys have used to get your members involved in these processes, whether it's an election or it's a community event, and how important is it to have the members engaged in the community? And Joe, if you have some thoughts on that too, please weigh in.
Prior to COVID, we got to a point where we were providing 18 different community events in the cities of Monterey and our contract cities, Pacific Grove, Carmel, and Sand City. And that was a lot due in part to some very motivated individuals that not only wanted to be out in the community, engaging with the community, providing fun events like the pancake breakfast, movies in the park, things like that, but also understood the political equity that it generates. And since COVID, we developed our own 501c3. So we have our own foundation. It's the Monterey Firefighters Community Foundation. We're not doing as many events. We're focusing on fewer events, but we consistently get really good community engagement. We encourage our members to get involved with our nonprofit as a way to get involved with our union activities, because those two work hand in hand. And now we're starting to develop our political action committee, where the situation or the scenario that you described earlier, we've had this little pile of money that we've done nothing with for years, and it's like, okay, now we need to really engage this. Because one of the criticisms of our membership for a few years before we really got into the airport thing was we don't do enough politically. And this was all kind of, we were fortunate in that respect that we didn't feel like we needed to get involved, but now it's like, how do we do that? And that's when we turn to you and the CPF to help guide us in developing our PAC, because we've got a strong executive board. We have a good foundation of 501c3. Now, how do we build that capacity and get the political action committee going? And we've got members that now want to step into a variety of roles, and just helping everyone to understand that just showing up to support those events has far-reaching implications.
Drew, what are you guys doing in Chula Vista?
I couldn't say it any better. Absolutely. It's about getting out into the community, getting your name out there. If we have a member that comes to us that wants to do something, we see how we're going to fund it, and then we ask who we're going to write a check to. That's pretty much everything that is about getting our name out there, making those contacts, those positive interactions. It's paramount to being successful. And that in turn is paramount to people wanting your endorsement, right? They're everywhere. They're always out there. They're at every event. Everybody loves them. Every contact is positive, right? And that's what we shoot for. And that's what we do.
Do you see that fairly common? And so first, I love the term political equity, and Ross and Drew too. I as I sit and listen and I think about it, what a great way to draw the members in, through foundational work or just community work, and to get that literally that member investment, because that's everything. The two people or an executive board, you can only do what you can do. It's so important that the members buy into the direction you're trying to take them. And Joe, you've done a lot, and I know you've worked with, we've worked with Compton and wanted to get President Salazar here. Danny couldn't make it, but it means so much to get the members invested in what you're doing. Joe, talk to us a little bit about what you've seen in your time here.
Yeah, in my time here, again, I get a lot of calls from people where something's gone wrong in the city, or in Compton, for example, they went 5 years without a contract. Their facilities needed drastic upgrades. There was mold in the building. So the members wanted to get involved. There was just an organic feeling within the city that we need to do something. What you have to do, though, is to ensure the members that their money that they're contributing into the PACs is being spent wisely, that we're not just lighting it on fire, that we're really strategically investing the money, the funds that they are giving to political activities to change these circumstances, to actually deliver results for them, right?
Does that always mean winning every council district, winning every initiative? That it doesn't always mean you win everything.
Absolutely not.
And what have you seen in that?
I mean, ideally, we want to win.
Yes, absolutely. We always want to win. Yes.
But sometimes just being active and being involved and showing that you can just participate in the conversation goes a long way in your community. So I would use Compton again as an example. This was their first election where they tried something at the city council level. They sent out a lot of mail. They hung up signs around the city. They even did some door-to-door knocking. And while one of their candidates, they endorsed two candidates. Sorry, they endorsed three candidates. Two of them didn't make it through, but one of them did. And I think what it showed, one, is that people woke up in the city and were like, they were seeing the mail going out. They were seeing the members knock on their door. They were seeing the signs around. And so it kind of rattled a lot of people in the city. And suddenly, I believe Compton's phone calls started getting returned, basically. And then on top of that, after the election ended, while two of the three candidates didn't make it through, one of the city, I believe it was the city clerk candidates who was, who they had not endorsed, but who was running in the general election, called them and said, how do I get your endorsement? What do I need to do? And that's just part of the relationship building that I was talking about earlier too, is that suddenly you have these people actively seeking your endorsement. They're trying to learn about your issues. They're trying to figure out ways to get in good with y'all, so that later, I mean, selfishly for them, they're trying to get your endorsement because it looks good and because they know you'll do work for them. But that's helpful too for your members too, because they're learning about your issues, they're engaging now. And if they end up going on and winning, then that person will be more likely to support issues that benefit your members.
And a couple things, did you have something in?
No, absolutely. I couldn't say it any better. And we've been very fortunate that we've had a decent relationship with our council for quite some time. About 6 years ago, we passed a tax initiative to go 4.0 staffing. We couldn't do that without the support of our council. Just about 3 years ago now, we started our own in-house ambulance service where the city had to take on a tremendous amount of debt to even make that happen. But we told them how this would provide a better service to the community. It'd be cheaper, and they believed in that we could do it. So a lot of this does boil down to relationships and what they think of you as a work group. So absolutely, it does play a valuable part in making progress in your local.
Ross, when you guys did the vote of no confidence and trying to, you were telling me about, one, it was successful, but two, you were really highlighting the changes that took place in there, and kind of, that's like the fruits of the labor. Kind of expand on that a little bit, the benefits that Monterey firefighters received, Local 3707, and the community received, because that's the other piece of this. People want to see results on the other side. What happened?
The vote of no confidence was years in the making. We came and sat down with you in South Lake Tahoe like 2 years ago, I think, or maybe more than that. And you said, do you have 90% of your membership on board with this? And we could not answer yes to that question. And you said, don't do it. We didn't push that. Last year when we did it, it was a movement that had been building within our membership because safety was starting to be compromised. We had a couple of firefighters that were seriously injured on the job. The mental health awareness and treatment around those incidents for the people that were involved was substandard in our opinion and the people that were involved. And those were the straws that broke the camel's back. Our rigs were breaking down. And so we felt like the vote of no confidence was just a very significant statement, and could not have done that without having communicated, just having those cups of coffees with our council to start with. But you're right, the membership wanted change, and so we were unsure of how that move was going to manifest. Right. And fortunately, the city manager brought back a fire chief that we'd had 10 years ago. And so this Fire Chief Andrew Miller, who was responsible for completing all of the contract negotiations and mergers with the cities of Carmel, Pacific Grove, so he knew our department inside and out, and knew the intricacies of those contracts, and was able to step into the role without a significant learning curve, and really started to peel back the layers of the onion. And when he did, it really vindicated our move to change leadership, but he also said, hey, I've got a lot of work to do. So instead of coming in for 6 months to 12 months, which was the initial plan to be an interim, he's reinstated. And so not only did we get leadership that hit the ground running, but we got strong leadership. We got someone that is well respected in the community and has already made significant strides, not only for us within our own city management and getting us new engines ordered, getting repairs done to stations, but also helps to influence the budgetary process in the city to get significant remodel approved at some of our stations that are 75 plus years old. And so some of these things take time, obviously, but we've also seen improvements in our training, and we're seeing just overall morale increase. So, some of those are tangible effects, some of those are not, but they're all positive and they're all great. And so that, even though we don't see that we're the reason that all of that happened, but we feel like we were a necessary, very important part of that step. And I think that is, I would be remiss if I didn't say that all started with a conversation, with our council people. And it all started with conversations with city management and just sitting down and going, here's the issues. We want to let you know because we think this is where this is headed. And if it does, we're gonna move in this direction. And when it did, it was not a surprise.
What's interesting, because there's some commonalities, Drew, between you and Ross and where you're at, because this change absolutely, if I heard you right, led to a positive change in the situation at the airport now and probably into the future.
It did. To provide the service according to the contract at the airport, we have to cover both sides of the airport because they built a new station which is on the north side of the airport property, which makes it very difficult because there's runways in between and you can't just drive across runways. There has been discussion about building a new fire station for the Highway 68 corridor, which is developing. It also services the terminal of the airport there, which is getting busier and busier. They're flying in bigger planes, so the passenger numbers are increasing. And so that's been discussed, but never really got anywhere. And since the airport contract was solidified and the airport's going through a major, I don't even want to call it a remodel, it's completely getting rebuilt, the terminal. And they have built a new fire station. We now need to address the deficiency for that Highway 68 corridor. So now we're now talking seriously and making relationships with local developers and our council and our city administration to move forward to building a new station. Years out down the track, obviously, but at least we feel like we're having those conversations in earnest.
Joe, did you have something?
Yeah, I was going to ask, well, you have all this momentum going. We're approaching the general election in 2024. Why do you want to get involved in that?
We want to keep the momentum going, that's for sure. And we also want to support the people that supported us through not only the airport, but through the vote of no confidence. Because, like I mentioned earlier, we established, and those were foundational relationships. And now, those are the people that we believe will support us in our contract negotiations within the city as well. So we want to give back for how they've supported us. And if that is through an endorsement or through getting more involved in the political process, more than we have previously, then that's why we want to do that. And because if we want to sit down and have the conversation about, something as simple as how do you view us and how do you view our pay in reference to everyone else that's on the Monterey Peninsula, is there a possibility that we can write in contract language that actually shows and helps to streamline the whole negotiations process based on how you see us in reference to the whole peninsula? And I know that might be getting a little complicated, but we would then be able to have those conversations. So we want to be able to dig into more of the details, basically.
As I'm kind of listening to that, and when you mentioned the South Lake Tahoe discussion, that was almost 5 years ago. And the commonality really for Drew and Ross, both of you, is that your locals have been extremely active in the last several years to achieve the goals and the things that you have now. And a couple of things that I hear, their health and safety, obviously a level of professionalism that it has grown tremendously in the last couple of years. It affects where you live. Drew, Ross, you mentioned the peninsula. Drew, I know you guys Chula Vista is almost the southern terminus for California. It's almost right on the border. You have that sliver where San Diego has in there, but between Chula Vista, San Diego, National City, San Diego County Fire, you've just seen all these boats have risen based on the work that the individual locals have done. And sometimes we don't see that. And I think it's super important that we look back at it. On the endorsement process, you guys do something in Chula Vista that's very unique, Drew, and I want you to hit on that.
Yeah, so this year, for the first time, we're expanding on our endorsement process. So we do the standard process. We'll have them fill out a questionnaire. We'll have them email it back to us. We'll interview them. But this year, after their interview, we have them do ride-alongs, or what we call job shadowing. So for 24 hours, they do a job shadowing on an engine, and for 12 hours, they job shadow on an ambulance. Last night, actually, we had our very first candidate go through their very first job shadow, and we called to see how it was, and the crews had a positive experience. Mike Nzunza is running for Council District 3. They said he was very genuine about being there. He was excited. He asked a lot of questions. He was engaged. And the members really got to know him, and he got to know the members really well. So we're excited on how this is going. We have our other 3 candidates scheduled for job shadows as well, and we hope that all the feedback is very similar. So we're looking forward to how this turns out, and hopefully moving forward that this will continue to be our process.
So I know, so you do the job shadow on an engine company and also on a medic, and does that play into the endorsement process?
Absolutely. All this morning, I was calling the individuals on that crew, and I was getting their feedback on what they thought of that candidate. And like I said, was he genuine? Was he interested? Did he take it seriously? One of the biggest questions was, do you believe that he had a better understanding of your job after doing the job shadow? That was one of the biggest takeaways, I think, previously, was our membership didn't really feel respected. Like, they didn't really know, that council didn't really know what they did every day. You can watch it on TV on one of your shows, but that's not the job. It's glorified. It's hard work, it's manual labor, and you have to do it for 30 years. So we really wanted to emphasize that this is the job. This is every day. This isn't just one day that out of a course of 2 years that you're gonna do this. We show up every day. So we wanted to really press that. And the feedback, I wanna say, is more valuable than their interview with us for 25 minutes. What that crew says about that individual holds much more weight than a 25-minute interview that we have with them when we interview them. So it absolutely is valuable.
So if Brian Rice is a candidate for city council in Chula Vista and I don't have the time to do the 24-hour ride-along or a 12-hour shadow on the medic, do I have a shot at your endorsement?
You do not. So we give you a 30-day window to perform these job shadowings. We feel that that's ample, and it really shows a commitment to our membership that you're willing to reschedule your day or schedule us into your day, that we are a valuable part of your day, and we want to make sure that our membership knows that.
Ross?
I just wanted to ask what the process was like getting approval through your city management to make that a part of the endorsement process. Did you have any issues with it? Was there any pushback? Or were they all for it?
So I was very fortunate that our president has a really good relationship with our fire chief. So he handled all that legwork. We already do ride-alongs, just not to that extent. He went ahead and made those contacts, made sure that it was all green-lit. We have all the paperwork filled out before they even start. And we, like I said, first one was last night, and the crews were saying it went really well. They're actually more excited than, that's the right word. They were extremely excited that we were moving in this direction, that they got to meet the candidates on a personal level, got to know who they were. So we're looking forward to this.
Super interesting. Do both of you guys see, because of the level of political activity and engagement and building up that political equity, are you seeing community members that wish to run for a higher office pursuing you now more than ever, or your local, for that engagement and hopefully that endorsement?
We have seen not numerous individuals, but we do know of one or two in the community that are interested and understand how important our endorsement would be. Just they're waiting for the right time, they're waiting for the right position, but not overly. But once again, we feel like we're fairly new to the political action game and endorsement specifically, and really getting involved, and that's one of the reasons we're super excited to have your support, Joe, and for the elections coming up.
Yeah, and that's another thing too, is getting your endorsement is nice. It's something that they can put on their website, but also it's when you can start helping them out too. Campaigns in California are very expensive. Any kind of outside help sometimes as a candidate from an ally is always greatly appreciated. So what I'm talking about, if you send out a piece of mail to the city council or supporting a city council member that you really like, one is that it increases their chances of getting elected because people are receiving that communication. But two, the council member is also receiving it. They're usually part of our mailing universe, and so they say, "Oh man, this is awesome! I love these guys. I'm going to do whatever I can to keep them happy." And so that's just ways that you can increase the power of your endorsement as well. I know Chula Vista does that, and we were talking about the city attorney race with Marco. I know we sent out a mailer for you all too. It looked like it was going to be very, very close, and so we had to move very quickly. We sent out a mailer to a lot of people in the city, and I think it was recognized, and people saw it as they were making their decision as well too.
Absolutely. We did send out a mailer for Marco. We designed it right here through Firefighter Print and Design. It was a beautiful piece. We sent it citywide, nonpartisan, right, because it is a city attorney race. That is open to the entire city. And as you were mentioning before, do we find people reaching out to us now? Absolutely. We just endorsed for a school board seat, Kate Bishop. She is a great person. She actually spoke at City Hall regarding our parity issue. So she envisions us and she respects us as a workforce, and she shares a lot of the common goals of just increasing the community, right, and our service to that community. So we do have more members now, or more candidates reaching out to us. It's actually made our job a little easier to show really who respects our endorsement, who values our endorsement. So it really clarifies that for us. Instead of us chasing them down, they have a vested interest to come look for us because they respect the work that we do now.
What are some ways that you encourage members to either stay involved or get involved? And Joe, you too, you've done a lot of this in a lot of different levels. Thoughts on that, getting members involved and staying involved?
Well, I'll just start with, we call this in organizing world, the ladder of engagement, where it starts with just a small ask of people. Hey, show up to this one meeting, or stand in the background of our photo op, or whatever. And then from there, you can start making, more incremental asks and getting people involved. And maybe it's the ride along too, where people engage with the candidate and they say, oh, this is kind of cool work. I want to figure out how do I get more involved in this political work. But part of it just comes from the asks too, and asking people to get involved and making sure that when you make that ask, that you give them the best experience as well. But I'd love to hear from you all too about how you see it playing out on the local level.
So this is a great question. I would say you have to really stress that this is your local, right? This is your union. It is what you make of it. These 7 people that are on your e-board are not your local. You are as a member. As active as you want to be, or as much as you want to get involved, that's the direction that your local is going to go. The weight has to be spread upon many to make any kind of movement. And like I said, we've been fortunate. We've had great member participation in building that brand. And now we just need them to step up into the next step, involved in PAC, come into interviews, just anything in general that they want to help out with, encourage them, empower them to take on events like that you want to put on throughout the city.
I believe as an e-board member, it's my responsibility to communicate and to plan accordingly. And we've already been discussing with our membership and talking about the importance of these elections that are coming up in November. For the city of Monterey alone, we have 3 open seats that are coming up, including the mayor. So not only are we communicating how important these are to our membership, but that we're going to need help to support the people that we want to be successful in those elections. So I think just being able to say, hey, we're going to need you, and be ready for it. And so it's not a surprise to you when it comes up, if that means knocking on doors or stuffing envelopes or whatever it may be, or helping us out with social media or showing up for photo ops, whatever it may be. That's, I think, the best thing that we can do to get their engagement for the elections and for the political action specifically. And then just always reminding them that the events that we have throughout the year, that it's very important that they're showing up and helping out with those events as well, because those, as mentioned earlier, we have council people that come to those events and lots of voters that are at those events as well. So those are great opportunities to help, like I said, build the political equity that we need to make the candidate supportive. And we also have the responsibility to communicate them what we're doing when we work with the CPF and what we're doing locally, so that we are holding up to the reasons why you elected us and why we're put in these positions. It's our responsibility. If you want us to be more political and that's what the membership is driving us to do, we're going to do that. But obviously we need to do that with the help of the membership as well. So, and I think the main way that we do that is, or that we can do that, especially as we're really starting to get involved in political action, is really being open and transparent and trying to plan as best as we can.
I think that member engagement is absolutely critical too, especially when you move to revenue initiatives, because sometimes when you can have the best city council, it is really hard to raise taxes in California, and you need that member engagement. You need to be out in your community and very active in order to get those initiatives passed. Drew, you mentioned Measure A, passed a few years ago in Chula Vista, but that was a pretty big fight too, and you had to get a lot of people to vote for a tax increase, basically. And so what's incredibly helpful in those types of campaigns that are as they get more difficult, especially when you're talking about taxes, is the member engagement and being part of the community.
We're coming into the local political season. We're in the state portion. Yeah, we're going to have federal stuff, but definitely a local political season is coming up. What can locals do that can help you and make your job easier as far as planning goes?
Call me now. But really, I mean, so the election is on November 5th, but in California, we don't really have an election day anymore. People do vote on election day, but really it's an election month. The counties are required to send out ballots to every voter in the state 30 days before. So that means the campaign begins early October, in some cases late September. So you factor that in, and then on top of that, it takes a minute to get some of these mail pieces out. We can do it quickly if we need to, but the reality is that there's time that goes into production, there's time that goes into just editing, getting everybody on board, and just mail time, right? Or digital broadcast time. So those decisions need to be made in September and really August, which then means you have to know who you're endorsing or who we're backing, right? And so your endorsing has to really start over the summertime, and really you have to start having these conversations now. So like I said, call me now, please. But sometimes we can still turn around things quickly. It's just more helpful the more time we have.
One of the things that was helpful for us, or at least our political action committee, was knowing how much some of the stuff was going to cost. That was a big one for us because just being able to get a ballpark figure on mailers and certain types of materials for campaigns was a big one for us because we don't have a whole lot of money. We have a small pool of money, and so that really helped us out. And we'll be calling you again.
Absolutely. And that's a big thing too. These campaigns are not cheap, but we can always work with you to fit your budget too, right? I usually try to give people the Cadillac plan first to just show you how much a all-out campaign would be, but then we can work backwards to kind of meet your needs. And then also it helps you with your strategic decisions too, of what races you want to get involved in, what races you may endorse, but not do as much political activity in.
So as we wrap up, I just want to, Ross, Drew, Joe, thank you so much. We could go on for another hour. I mean, I have a number of questions lined up in my head, and I know that we can't get there. But one of the things that I thought was really important and really interesting was both the Monterey Firefighters and the Chula Vista Firefighters have been working for several years to get to the place that they're at right now and start to see some of the fruits of that political labor and engagement and involvement. We will get Compton and Danny Salazar here to talk about, what it's like when you just start out. It all matters. And the public and the people that you serve, they do want to hear your issues. They do want to be supportive of your issues. But the only way to do that or achieve that is through the political process. And so where I'm going with that is we always have to stay invested here. We always have to make sure that we're visible in our community, that the people we serve see the real value that we bring. Because the day we start slipping there, or the day we're not here, or the day we're not there, is when we start to lose some of that political equity that we've built up. And it does not take very long to being the person starting the conversations to the conversation is about you. The conversation is we can do more with less. It's a slippery slope, and that's why we have to be politically engaged and engaged in our communities, because they go hand in hand. And guys, I just want to thank you for being on the Firewire today. and bringing your insights and knowledge, and look forward to working with you as we move forward. So Ross, Drew, Joe, thank you so much. And for everybody out there listening, I hope that you picked up a couple of nuggets or things that you can use going forward. And certainly if there's things that you want to expand on, call Joe. Reach out to your district vice president. We can get you in touch with the right people, because when we work together, we affect and we create change, and it makes the livelihood of our membership better. It makes their family life better. It makes the safety of the community better. And all these things working together make for a stronger California Fire Service. So, gentlemen, I want to thank you for being here today. And with that, we'll close out the CPF Fire Wire. Catch you next time.